getting into whatever we get into. Usually just a conversation between me and him from time to time, just checking in on what is happening in this world. Hey Jay, are you on speakers right now?
Uh,
That's your audio?
oh, you want me to put in some headphones?
That would probably get rid of that delay. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, let's see it. Duh. I can't believe I spaced on that.
All good. It is all good, brother. It's good to have you on. We've been wanting to do this for a while. So we're just pushing on through, trying to get all of our little details worked out so we can start actually getting into the broadcast and exploring some awareness for a new week into the unknown. There we go. I don't hear myself anymore. Outstanding.
How's this? It's always
Way
something.
better.
America.
America. Where
Can
you
you
can get
see me?
headphones. I can see you. I can see you. And we are live officially on YouTube, Matrix Body Mechanics Live, and on People for People Radio. Aloha and welcome, everybody. It's Monday. It is the beginning of a new week, entering into the unknown. And it's always a pleasure to have a friend as a guest on with me, someone that also is deep in researching, and him and I have been doing this for a very long time. And I hope that to be one of many perspectives that expands your awareness, that for many of us who are posting information, whether it be controversial or very metaphysical memes or articles, this isn't something new we just started doing. This has been 10, the better hand of 2 decades, even for many of us since 9/11 happened. We felt something was off and started doing research and started learning and educating and empowering ourselves with knowledge and information. And so it's even weirder for us to be in a time like we are now, where this is, a lot of the information coming out. It's not something we just saw an article randomly of and decided to spew it out over the internet, or a lot of these memes. This in particular individual I'm going to introduce, he's quite the meme firecracker. He he, I would say, not even firecracker, like a shotgun loaded memes that I see him circulating. And I gotta say, as a friend of mine, this is somebody who likes to say stuff that no one else will say and point things out that other people won't really feel comfortable or have the cojones maybe to step up and speak about. And so I appreciate it deeper because I know how long you and I have been learning about this stuff. So this isn't new for us, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it's weird even looking at people speaking so righteously that have just started to even try to research this stuff themselves over maybe the last 5-6 months that we've been in the latest current psyop. But with no further ado, Jeremy Lifesy, exoscientist. He is a researcher and also one of the most skilled technically tattoo artists that puts magic and art on the skin. And I'm an artist, and that's the first thing I could do. And I have to say that most of the tattoos on my body have been done by this guy, or fixed, I should say, by this man, as I attempted to get them other places. But it's been a bond of ours over the years, and there's something very transformative with going through the ritual of putting something that means something to you in terms of your life, symbolically, to an event or a transition in your life that you decide to wear on your skin. For me, it was always about the artistry of it. And embodying that into the skin. But we've been through some journeys together, and
Literally.
yeah, literally, he's lived out in Kauai here for a number of years and went deep into the forest, into the jungle here, and now he's got a podcast. And I want him to be able to share a lot of the knowledge and wisdom that he kicks, and talk about his podcast. And we've been talking about having him over to People for People Radio as well. And he's quite the character. So with no further ado, Jeremy Lifesy.
Hey, how's it going, man? It's awesome to be on here. Yeah, you said a lot of the stuff that I would say about myself. I mean, I've been studying. I mean, the day that 9/11 happened, I was arguing with my family on the couch that this was an inside job, and my key, the telltale signs were 4 planes being hijacked out of a major airport. We had airport security back then. A lot of people forget about that. And then the second thing was one of the planes crashing into an empty part of the Pentagon. The third thing was the theatrical setup for where George Bush was. He just so happened to be reading, stories to the little kiddies in school, like he was just this great president. So right there, I saw psychological warfare. And then lo and behold, I remembered also that a few days before, Donald Rumsfeld had said something like they'd lost $2.4 trillion. They just couldn't find it. We just can't find it. And I remember thinking, well, the IRS will beat my door in for $250. These guys lost $2.4 trillion. That doesn't make sense. So the whole setup, I mean, this is pre 9/11 documentaries and conspiracy videos. These were the four signs that set me off. And not to mention, a week before, I had 2 dreams, odd fucking dreams. I was in an airport somewhere. I was walking up to baggage claim. I had to set my suitcases on the belt, where you set your suitcases. And then and next to the suitcase was a big black bag. And I had to lay down on that bag and get my picture taken. Next thing you know, I'm in a plane. The plane explodes. The second dream that I'd had, I was in Malibu on the cliff overlooking the ocean at a big party at some mansion. And there was a crowd of people. And I looked out over the ocean and there was 2 helicopters, military helicopters, flying towards the party. And I started yelling at everybody, they're going to crash into the party. They're going to crash into the party. And no one would listen to me. So I ran to the mansion. I opened the door. And next thing you know, I'm running up this industrial type stairwell. And all these like remote control helicopters started pounding into the building, like hundreds of them. And then I woke up. And then lo and behold, within a week, 9/11 happens. And so there was a lot of indicators that it was an inside job. Not to mention, being incarcerated for as long as I was. I did a collective of about almost 8 years in jail. The last time doing almost 6 years. So I got, and you're in jail, and you're in there, and all you have time to do is psychologically profile people around you because, hey, you got to survive. I'm a small dude with a big mouth, a lot of energy, and it's the 1990s and the gang era in Los Angeles. So I got to be sharp. I got to know how to play mental games, and I got to know about the criminal mind. And on top of that, I'm in a government institution. So now I'm learning about the system, right? So let's fast forward to today. It's not hard for me to tell what the fuck is going on when I understand the criminal mind better than almost anybody I know, and I understand the system better than almost anybody I know. So
AJ, I just want to support the F bombs. Just for the People for People radio. We're a family conspiracy network. So just on the F bombs, just those. I just want to throw out just a little bit for the
I'll try to.
For the word spells with that.
Yeah, I know. Words are worlds. I use a lot of profanity because that's like an emphasis. It's not.
Right.
It's not awesome. It's effing awesome. You know what I mean? But I'll try.
So you can effing, and also here's a really interesting perspective on it. Is this radio show also goes out to some of the elderly, and we're trying to wake them up to the truth as well. And unfortunately, sometimes that can be putting off even on some level to them.
I get it.
So and I want them to hear and be open to what you have to share as well as myself. So and we can effing works great though.
Effing, I'll do my best, or I'll say frogging. The frogging government. But I know, I always say words are worlds, and I know that better than anyone.
I know you do.
So it's not hard for me to see psychological warfare. I specialize in psychological warfare, and I'm going to break that down just really quick right now. So we're in a society where these occultists, which is who's running everything, they specialize in backwards talk, which means things like war on terror, war on drugs, no child left behind, Black Lives Matter. There's some other ones out there.
It's the three. It's the three, but they also do those 3-word phrases, right? 1, 2,
because
3.
3 represents the Trinity, whether it's the as above, so below. The Holy Trinity or the demonic Trinity, right?
Well, it's weird because isn't it 3 words or 3 phrases? Like, I'm trying to think of good examples right now. They do slogan or almost mantra programming in 3-word directives or 3 phrase directives. Like, what was it? Wash your hands, social distance, and
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Exactly. Perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
and so BLM was one of the, as you were bringing that one up, I was saying this is also fits into that same thing. And you can actually look this up with mentalism. This 3-phrase or 3-word phonetic imprintation, neuro-linguistic imprintation gets in. It's a way of getting in.
Tell
and
a vision, right? So they use phrases to lure you in. War on drugs, war on terror,
homeland security.
Yeah, New World Order, and go on. I mean, it's all over. But so they put these phrases out there that nobody will dispute. Like, nobody would disagree unless you're a racist that Black Lives Matter. Of course they matter, 100%. But these sick people, because most of us interpret words kind of honestly, because we're somewhat trusting people, right? I mean, I'm somewhat trusting. I'm very skeptical of a lot of things. But most people, what you say is what you mean, right?
Right.
So it's psychological warfare. And so then lo and behold, when you research a lot of these movements or whatnot, you find out that they're not exactly what they're cracked up to be. And, they use political correctness, which is an excellent tool for, groupthink and getting people on board. And, I feel like the most instrumental tool has been the tell a vision. And, so I feel like I specialize a lot in psychological warfare, natural law. I know a lot about satanic cults, religious cults. I know about predictive programming, word spells, the occult in general, magic, patterns in nature. I know a lot about a lot of the different things, but I would say the few things that I really focus on would be, which I learned in Kauai, was natural law. And that was because, I did the organic farming for so much, and I drank the plant medicines while I was out there. And I got that plant consciousness. And, I remember I would be in the garden, and we were providing vegetables for, the health food stores out there, and some of the major restaurants and stuff, the microgreens and all that stuff. and I would talk to the plants, you know, when I was touching them, and I would tell them I loved them and how thankful I was, and I hoped that they would give me messages, and you know, just being a, you know, your average weirdo that's open to the consciousness of the earth, which we have somehow forgotten about. And I had the pleasure of doing that on both Kauai and on Maui, and with fruit, and then landscaping on the side, and working with arborists, and tattooing as well. And it was in Kauai when I realized, we'll talk about tattooing really briefly, was that I realized I was an eternal being, that I'd lived many lifetimes on this planet. I'd had a little bit of experience with past life regressions before I came to Kauai. Through the ayahuasca journeys and the San Pedro and you know, things like that, I relived past lives and felt and saw and knew eternity. And I realized that I'd lived multiple lifetimes pre this lifetime, and that this lifetime was a revisiting of multiple lifetimes, whether it was the abusive childhood, you know, growing up in gang neighborhoods, fighting bullies all the time, or being incarcerated for so many years, or getting involved deeply in meditation. You know, I mean, I've spent now, believe it or not, because as much as I can talk, I've done multiple Vipassanas, 10-day silences and 3-day silences. And, you know, and when I'm not in Vipassana, I still, you know, when I was in Kauai after me and Shaston broke up, I went and I did that 10-day silent meditation on the Big Island in Pahoa. And then I came back, and for 8 months straight, I meditated religiously for over 2 hours a day. I would wake up, meditate for about an hour and 15 minutes, say a prayer, do my day, come back home before bed, another hour and 15 minutes. And I did that for 8 months. And now, since February, I've been meditating religiously for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes a day since February. And again, because I need to go back for refreshers, because sometimes I ditch meditation, and then I always come back to the meditation thing. So, and I skip around a lot, so I'm ADD, so forgive me. But I realized while in Kauai that I had past lives as not just a tattooer, because when I was in Hawaii, I learned a lot about the Polynesian style tattoos and was able to learn how to decipher a lot of those symbols, and also to tell which islands those symbols came from. And I realized, oh shit, you were a high priest tattooer in past lives. And then I came to the realization that tattooing is as old as humanity. It's as old as since, you know, people like you and me were running around the fire with a charred stick, joking around, stabbing each other. And now we got a charcoal mark that won't leave. And we discovered, hey, we can do tattoos. And then, you know, studying that and learning that a lot of the ancient tattooers were tattooing on the body's meridians. They were using numerology, symbology to help heal people. I realized that my life was bigger than this, you know, this LA rock star tattooer that I had become, that really I was a keeper of the flame with tattooing, and that it was more sacred than I had thought, you know, pre-Hawaii. Hawaii was actually a lot like Luke Skywalker going into the Dagobah system for me, because I compare my journey on Kauai to not only, you know, this beautiful island that I got to live on, but, you know, I had outside of jail, Kauai, I experienced some of the most incredible darkness of my life on that island. And a lot of people, and you'll know this, a lot of people in the spiritual new age movement, you know, spirituality is all blissed out, and I'm a yoga goddess, and you know, it's and for me, I'm just like, that's a bunch of crap. Like, you know, to me, the most spiritual growth I ever had was in facing painful things and going to these deep, dark levels and seeing that pathway through that pinhole of light that I had. Excuse that symbol, it should have been more like that. Through that pinhole of light, you know, going through hell to see the light of heaven. And that's where the spiritual growth came for me, was through the pain and the suffering and trying to find a way out of these difficult situations to, you know, be able to appreciate the good blissed out yogic moments. Right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there is a lot of unilateral focus on, yes, on positivity, on the higher spectrum of what it is to be human in this duality. But that's not, we come from that. So you come from this infinite light. So to try to come into the darkness, into a spectrum of frequencies outside of that infinite light, you're here to experience those. Now, what's actually happened is super complex. It spans across the spectrum of what I call the three realities. And everything we talk about, a lot of what we talk about with what's going on a planetary level
a
is
planetary level.
a plane at, yes, a plane at the center.
Yeah.
So at that plane at the center, meaning this 3D consciousness simulation, it's really a holograph moving through time space. There are two other realities. There are two other dynamics that are there, that, and that would be the interdimensional or intergalactic. It's not what you think. It doesn't mean space and galaxies far away. It means everything's in the same time space, just in different frequencies. And magnetisms, if you will, which is something I do want to touch base on, is magnetism today. It's a really, really powerful way. I have so much respect for Charlie. You know, we were just touching base about. I mean, there's actually a newer interview he did that I'm looking forward to hearing and looking forward to having him back on the show. But he talks a lot about magnetism, and you know, you can't take a class for magnetism. So you can take a class for electricity. You can't take a class for magnetism in a college. It seems weird, right? And it is a thing. It is actually a scientifically proven force. And unlike electricity, it's infinite. It's infinite in the way, and it expands out from a 360-degree radius. And if we tapped more into our magnetism than our bioelectricity, that's where our infinity, our infinite self exists, is in the space of the magnetism, which I know that you've probably seen some of. It's really coming down to an awareness of left brain, right brain.
Yeah.
And really what we've been conditioned more into and programmed into through the indoctrination, both in with education and school systems, but even the familial conditioning from just so much intergenerational programming, to be into the left, into the logic, into the reason, not into the creative, not into the, you know, the receptive, the passive side, the more connected side.
Well, I always say you got to think with your heart and feel with your brain. And what kind of, if you want to take it back to the ancients, there's the left-hand path and the right-hand path. And even the occultists, the satanic militia that's out there, you know, their Baphomet painting from the 1800s, which is the masculine feminine, the transgender goat god, Baal or Moloch or whatever, Saturn, Kronos, whatever. You look at the left-hand path or the right-hand path, the path of righteousness, or you can get left behind, you know, you know. And so, and it's playing out today, oddly enough, on a political field. And I'm not a registered voter. I've hated, you know, virtually every president we've ever had. And I've, you know, like you said, we've been studying this stuff for decades, and being that we're kind of students in the field. I mean, So yeah, man, they've done a good job at inverting the sacred on almost all levels. You know, lies are truth, truth are lies. You know, boys are girls, girls are boys. And I don't have problems with gays or trans people. You know, my brother, before he died, he was kind of in a post-op, you know, trans thing before he died. And so, and I loved my brother, you know, and I just did a podcast the other day with, you know, one of my fabulous friends, if you will, you know, from out there in Hollywood, you know, and he's like a brother to me, you know. So my whole thing though is not with a gay or a trans movement per se, because for me that's just a political thing. It's when you break it all down, it goes into tampering with genetics and the foods that we're eating and the hormone
Atrazine.
changers and you know the fetal, you know, the fetal, the male and female fetal cells that they're putting in vaccines that are messing with the biology. And you know, I got one of my friends was trans and she's like, oh, you're transphobic. And it's like, I'm not. I don't have a problem with gays or trans. I've got a problem with the government tampering with our genetics and with our hormones and putting stuff into
Using
our food.
chemicals like atrazine and of course the excessive genetically modified soy that was
Yeah.
indoctrinated into our populace, or the whole fat-free phase where we were bombarded with all these hydrogenated polyunsaturated fatty acids, which was your fat-free stuff, only for them to find out later, wow, I guess saturated healthy raw fats are really good for you. And actually it's these processed breads, these processed modified wheat carbohydrates that people are eating, and they're going down and creating these abrasions throughout the body as you chew them and swallow them, they move down, they create abrasions, and then those polyunsaturated fatty oils go across the actual abrasions, agitate them. And this is there was a heart surgeon who did over, I believe, like 500 or 600 open heart surgeries, and he said that what he found was these abrasions from processed carbohydrates, breads, primarily different breads people eat, and when they chew them, they actually scrape the tissue as it goes down and create abrasions, and then the excess oils that they're eating agitate those abrasions, and then they start to form different types of plaque around them, arterial plaques and stuff. And you know, I was watching this one open heart surgery open heart surgeon today talking about, for years he would just clear those valves and be like, all right, well, see you later. He said that he was the 9th person in one patient's heart, that
Wow.
he was the 9th one to go in and clear arterial plaque, and
Which,
so he's changed it all. He's become a nutritionist. This doctor was speaking some very deep knowledge about the body's biochemistry and what we eat, you know, and he brought some really fascinating points up. He said that, you know, almost everybody needs some form of supplementation,
yes.
because unless you're eating vegetables and plants and fruits and nutrients from multiple sources in raw form, which I always like to try to do and speak about the most, um, most people have about 5 to 10 go-to foods through the week that's what they eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like out of all the things maybe you know to eat or you know how to make, on average, when you're in your routine and your weekly lifestyle, we got like a classic 5 to 10 meals that
Yeah.
are our go-to meals that we'll make. You
Yeah.
know, I could describe some of mine
Me
easily, you
too.
know, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, and especially having kids, you learn to have like go-to meals, because you have to have sometimes quick snack meals that are dialed as well. So one of the favorites for myself, and listen, you know, a lot of these colleagues of mine, researchers, elder men of mine that I deeply respect, they're very set on what, you know, I was deeply indoctrinated into for almost a decade, as a vegan, you know, fascist, and that I alienated a lot of
That's
friends.
when we first met. Remember? I met you. Okay, so we should talk about how we met. Like our journey was actually deep from the beginning. So me and Micah met through a mutual friend he was living with, and you know, our friend is no longer with us, Gabby, right?
God bless her.
God bless her. And you know, Micah lived with her, and I came over one time. I went to Poquito Mas, which was a Mexican food restaurant in
I used
LA.
to love that place. Used to
Oh,
love that place.
I know, and I showed up with a burrito covered in cheese, and you know, and Micah goes, "Are you actually gonna eat that burrito festering in animal fat right now in front of me?" and like he used to, oh my god, I can't believe you're actually gonna eat that, right? But like, you know, years later, it's yeah, I don't really eat dairy barely ever now. You know what I mean? I barely ever, and I would say for the better part of the last 7 years, I've been pretty much gluten free, dairy free, and processed sugar free since I was living in Maui. And I mean, every once in a while, I'll still, you know, eat a little something. You know, I'm a human being, and you know, sometimes I want to have some mozzarella with my whatever, man. But it's very very rare. When I say every once in a while, I'm talking about once every couple of months. You know, if I have pizza once a year, that's a lot. Um, I'm but yeah, our journey from the gate was about uh, humor and healing and just spiritual stuff and art. We've always been artists. We've done a
Yeah.
lot of art together. You know, you did a lot of the neuromuscular stuff on me and helped dig out a lot of that trauma, that prison trauma, childhood trauma, you know, and had me weeping on your table, and you did it for free. You know what I mean? You didn't even charge me. Oh, I tattooed you. We traded art for art, right?
Pain for pain, I think, is what we
Pain
said
for
back then.
pain, yeah. But so our journey from the beginning was based off, we've always joked around, we've always been into spiritual stuff and weird stuff, and
But also been able to put each other in check and laugh
oh yeah,
about it and not take things too serious. And
yes, because both of us
um,
need to be put in check. We're strong personalities, right? Like you said, I'll trigger people. I'm more triggering on social media than Donald Trump is to the media, right? Like I will trigger people,
uh,
and we have
I've watched some of your elongated, long drawn out post comment battles and journeys, and I've had a few for sure. I've been surprised, honestly, to see some of the really brilliant, intelligent individuals that are friends of mine that have gone to the most adversarial and antagonistic places over posts that I posted, that a lot of times I'll post something with no comment that's very neutral. Like I'm saying, look, collective, look at this. You know, I'm not, and there will be times that I'll post something with my perspective, my personal experience, my truth, my, you know, my overall consciousness filters, um, just that with my process of perception. But I've been amazed to see how much people have been triggered, I have to say, about anything I posted to bring awareness to the roots of this socially engineered movement and group with Black Lives Matter. It's been really like surprising to me on some degree that people couldn't see past this element of whether it was a deeper um, restless guilt and shame for being white and feeling like they want to stand up and defend, and if they didn't, they have this fear they would be looked at as racist or something like that. But like, I was literally just posting pictures of like, hey, did you know this is the history of our country? that actually the KKK was started by the Democratic Party, and it was actually some of the first Republican senators were African American
Well,
men. In fact,
the
like,
Republican Party was technically started dominantly by African Americans.
yes, it was.
After the slavery, it was like 100 blacks and like 15 whites that started the Republican Party. And if you want to jump into like the KKK, the KKK uses racism. Yeah, a lot of those guys are ignorant racists. But it's a tool for classism, is what it is. Racism is the fall guy for classism.
Well, it's also an extension of the Masonic order. And
yeah,
you
I was about to go into that.
Every aspect of their infrastructure.
So, yeah, they've got the Rosicrucian cross. They're burning effigies. They're having ritualistic sacrifices.
And the Islamic symbolism.
The Islamic, the Shriners. And then on top of it, what are they called? The Grand Dragon. The dragon is Lucifer. The Grand Wizard. The wizard is a magician. So these people are strategically doing stuff through the occult. So a lot of, like, when it comes to like black issues, what I do is I seek out black conspiracy theorists or black scholars is what I like to refer to. Larry Gators,
Young Pharaoh's one is honestly one of the most
Owen,
outspoken.
The Hodge twins, Larry Elders, Dr. Thomas Sowell. People feel guilty, white guilt or whatever. Now, I'm a man of many nationalities. My dad's mother was born on an Indian reservation in Tama, Iowa. My mom's family come from the Canary Islands. That's off the coast of Morocco.
We're all collective mutts in that.
Exactly.
Don't allude yourself to anything else. We're all collective mutts. And let's just get, again, really clearly establish that the Jewish people are not a genetic race. They come from all over. The Jewish person is actually, even down to the Bible, if you go through the story of Jacob, what does he say? He takes the path that's straight and narrow, bro. And God says, what's your name? He says, it's Jacob. He says, you need a grander name than that, because any child who follows basically from the left up and to the right, bro, working towards the 13th cranial nerve, fully activating the pituitary and the pineal gland to excrete these secretions that activate the body synthesis. Every 11 months, your cells replace themselves. You become literally immortal. If you want to be living that true embodiment of the divinity, those would be the children of Israel. It is not a genetic component. I am from Hungary. I have Jewish genetics, if you would say it like that, but it's not. I have Hungarian genetics, and I come from lineages that were the practicing of Judaism. But Judaism, and I don't know if you saw Young Pharaoh's video where he literally like sat with a rabbi and went through, all right, tell me where you guys are from. Did you see that?
I need to watch that one, but
it's really quite efficient, personally.
I just want to let everybody know I'm not wearing a NASA shirt. I designed this shirt for the Tinfoil Hat podcast. Sam Tripoli, this is my design. You can purchase it at samtripoli.com because, I like to know about history, which we're going to get into right now really quick. The history of NASA is Nazi or Vatican Roman Catholic or J.P. Morgan, or not J.P. Morgan, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Satanic Ceremonies in the Hollywood Hills,
Walt Disney,
all these guys, all members of the occult, all tied into the Nazis. I don't trust pedophiles or Nazis. Sorry, guys. I don't believe in your NASA movement. But if you want to get historical with racism and things like that, these are things that people like to ignore. And they like to believe that Whitey's this evil demon. Well, the people that are evil demons that are white, they're coming from the royal family, the Roman Catholic Church, the Canaanite Khazarian Jews, the Zionist Jews. Yes, they have white skin and they're very evil and they're very wealthy, and they've used racism as a tool to, get people divided and fighting amongst each other. But let's not forget what happened during the abolition of slavery. Half of white America saw it as barbaric and horrible and were so not racist, they were prepared to risk their lives to free, the black slaves. When the black slaves got here, they were sold by the Moors. The Moors were black. And they'd been in slave trade with Islam, brown skinned people for thousands of years. And they're still in trade today in Africa with slaves. Black Lives Matter isn't talking about that. But when the blacks got here after they were, sold by their own people, they came here and met with my other ancestors, the Irish, which were slaves. And people love to say, oh, they're indentured servants. That's slavery. Okay. Nobody wants to be an indentured servant where you work for free for a rich psychopath. Okay. That's slavery. So nobody talks about that stuff. But a lot of educated Black scholars and conspiracy theologians and historians are talking about this. They are speaking out against Black Lives Matter. They are trying to wake their people up to the fact that the Democratic Party, the KKK, was started to battle the Black-started Republican Party and terrorize them into voting back on the plantation again. So people, they don't like truth. Again, we're dealing with inversion.
Well, no, it's not, but to them, it's not truth. That's the thing, is that this is a reality that they're deeply engaged in to be real. And so this threatens not only their reality, but their identification with it. And in threatening the identification with that reality, that's scary. You are, it's like killing a person. You're
changing their whole paradigm.
Yeah, you're killing their paradigm on some level. So they're going to defend that to the T. And at the same time, is it really a mental conflict or process? Really think about how much deeper it is. And this is a beautiful segue into the awareness in what I truly believe the greatest enslavement to humanity. For those of you that are also, good book reporters is what I call, because now, bro, it's kind of like, remember when you had to do a book report? It's like, if you did a good book report, it's because you did good investigating and you learned all the stuff about, whoever. Well, let's say you're doing a book report on Mancoon cats. You know what I mean? You'd learn everything about the Mancoon species of the cat and where they, you'd have to learn it all. You put pictures in there and, and I used to see the book reports that get turned in, and some of them just be like, dang, that's just,
that's it.
You started that last night. You started that last night, didn't you? Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't been doing a book report and wait until the last night to do it, but I still make that thing look amazing. And cram all the stuff in,
because we're creative.
So we are having to tap into our investigative book report student selves. For those of us that aren't natural journalists or investigators. Many people are great investigators and great. So I want to share a little piece, as many pieces have been brought together for me by other researchers and journalists and information discoverers, truth seekers. The greatest enslavement to you, humanity, and known by those that control us, who, by the way, are they're alchemical masters. They are alchemists. They have learned the alchemy of the body. They've learned how the nervous system works. They've learned that your eyes take in light through the optic nerves, and that you're neurochemically recording and writing neural pathways.
I was about to say they've used the mind education system,
technology.
They've used the television, which goes through your eyes. And
the subconscious.
Music, the music industry, full of occult Satanism and darkness and Canaanite practices.
Subconscious messages, subconscious directives.
Food, right? They've used medicine, which we all know the sign for medicine is Mercury, the serpent's going around the staff.
So
let's
look at this like it's a list of things that are going
hit us on
to your
every
system
level, bro.
That I'm using an old man's term for recording, because most people think recording, hold your phone. You're recording all this stuff. And so to me, the greatest enslavement to our people is that your body has become a chemical cage of your enslavement, because your body is accumulating chemical memory every day that was supposed to be released through palpation, which would be a form of touch most of us aren't familiar with, that we call medicine touch. One of my patients came up with that. It's not comfort, familial friend touch. It's not romantic contact stimulation or sexual stimulation. It is touch with the intent to move and flush
Heal.
Heal. And so, and you could just do it like this. See, I'm just doing a little squeeze, just doing it. If we were doing this since we were little kids every day with everything that's happened to you, that you're recording both in physical activity and feelings, which are also chemicals that go in and they sit in your tissue. They have an acidic base. They become rancid. They start corroding your
Cellular
nerve
memory.
endings, and you become patterned chemically to the older versions of you, to everything that they bombarded you with that year around fear and the psychopathy of fear. You are literally a recorded log of fear, of hyperadrenalization, of your mommy daddy issues. All of it has been logged, and it never was supposed to stay in. It was part of the experience. Listen, when you feel happy or sad, it's because the neuropeptides go into your cells and make you feel. So, but after that feeling, you're supposed to flush it
Release
out after
it.
all of it. Exactly. And so when you don't, it gets stuck in you.
Check this out. See, I love to compare a lot of things to natural law and nature, right? Which is why I'm abhorrently against this popular junk science movement that scientism and all that bullshit. But I believe in science, just not a lot of the science that's pop and, part of our culture. Scientists can be bribed like fucking politicians. Let's be real. Excuse my F-bomb, like frogging politicians. But if you look at dogs, you find a stray dog on the street, it's starving, it's got festering wounds, it's clearly been abused, maybe its back legs aren't working, it's skinny, it's malnourished, you pick it up off the street, maybe it's biting at you or it's cowering in fear. You take it in and you notice within 3 weeks to 3 months, the dog's had a complete turnaround. It's happy now. It's wagging its tail. When you found it, it was shivering and angry and malnourished. Its hair's growing back. The wounds are healing. It's playing with other dogs. It's coming up and licking you. And this is the magic of nature. Nature can heal you. We should be like these dogs, right? Like people are like, oh, you don't understand. It says like, no, I do understand. I got my ass beat by my dad my whole life. I fought bullies, and then I wound up in jail for eight years in and out. Last time, 5 years and 11 months, fighting gangbangers from 1993 to 99. So I understand about trauma. I understand about horrific situations. I understand about all that stuff. And yet here I am. I've traveled the world and I own a business. I work with plants and I have a podcast going. I'm designing shirts for famous comedians and their podcasts and other friends. I'm doing designs for them, logos, all this stuff. Like, where are my excuses, right? I had a foot in my ass from the time I was born. So it's you also got to realize you're not a collection of your life experiences. You're not a victim, which is what the left wants you to believe. And again, I'm not a voter. I'm not a registered voter. But I'm like Malcolm X. I'm not really a fan of either party, but I have a real big freaking problem with the left. I'm sorry. If there's Democrats watching this, y'all need to wake up, okay? This shit ain't cute anymore. So people are not a collection of their life experiences, and they're not victims. You're not a victim. You're either a victim or a victor, like Candace Owens says. I want to be a victor. I don't want to be, oh, my daddy beat me and all the gangs and my girlfriend broke my heart and, are mad at everybody and blaming everyone for my problems, because that works when you're a child and an adolescent. But when you become an adult and now you're just missing opportunities because you want to party all the time or because you're holding on to past resentments, eventually it gets to a point where you can't blame your president or your mommy or your ex-girlfriend or your ex-boyfriend or your boss or anything. And I got to a point where I realized, and meditation really brought me there. Because meditation, we could get into that later, but that brought me there. Meditation opened my consciousness. If you go within, you never go without. Go within, you'll never go without. And you start to realize oh, it's not about this superhero Jesus that I need to, oh, it's about becoming Jesus. That's what he wanted to show these people. Get the Christ consciousness. Don't rely on your president or your governor or your mommy and daddy or anybody, your celebrities. Become the superhero or messianic figure that that the that the world wants you to pray to.
Yep.
You got to you got to fast, you got to meditate, you got to pray, you got to love, you got to heal, you got to search for the truth. Don't be relying on other people to find that for you. Don't be a victim.
I'm looking for specifically one of my favorite breakdowns and diagrams about the cranial nerves and 33 vertebrae, and it really is the embodiment of what we're here to do. Here it is.
There you go.
Got it. Right here is to live through example, actually. And,
the 33 vertebrae of the spinal column. Exactly.
The rebirth, as your cerebral fluid, which is the Christ consciousness, climbs your 33 vertebrae, Jacob's ladder, and meets your 12 cranial nerves, the 12 disciples, ignites the pineal. And actually, this keeps it general. It's actually through the 13th cranial nerve that you have to go, that you activate the pineal and the pituitary, which create two separate secretions that combine. But it literally is this cerebral spinal fluid and this activation that comes about. It is the Christos, and it is the colostrum, actually, which is the anointed holy colostrum, which is our actual idea of Santa Claus. Is the saint? It's the colostrum. It's actually this magical stuff, and actually, every year, what that entire event is about is this right here. Is actually when we come to the point of the sun in its lowest point, and then it rises. That whole process. That period from December 21st to January 1st is actually supposed to be, you are supposed to sit in meditation doing these ancient sciences. And this is the period where your cells will regenerate themselves on this 11-month cycle, like we're saying, instead of every 7 years. That this 11-month cycle will happen where the body re-anoints itself and it activates a full cellular regeneration, which is the 11th to that 12th month in this very pivotal period when the sun is going through a process that is basically embodying the same magnetism process, the directional movement process that you can sync your magnetic bioelectric energy system through your cellular biochemical system. But how do we totally do this? Well, we have to actually do it a bunch of times.
Walk the path,
we
man.
We got to do it a bunch of times. We got to actually idealistically, if you were taught this by your parents since you were little and did it every day, would you train all of your cells to work together to move this bioelectrically charged fluid, activate these different glandular centers to create? I mean, think about this. This is a physiologically directed process that has to do with a very complex engineering within your system to manipulate these glands. If you talk to any Taoist masters for just even learning how to circulate their sexual fluid, the level of training to condition the pelvic floor muscles to do that is takes a really long time, guys. I do it, and it's taken me it took me almost 10 years initially to even start feeling it, and then another 8-9 years now to actually practice internally the movement before I could even know what I was feeling. So I just want to say to all the men that have been told, don't, and I talked to Charlie about this because, he says in a very beautiful and, and euphorically transpersonal way, we should be able to do this to where sexuality, you don't have to even release any fluid from yourself. You're
talking about the microcosmic orbit?
I am, but I'm also talking about something in the Tao called stealing the tiger's purse, which is if you aren't trained in your body's internal conditioning, and that only comes through practice and discipline, and also having it taught to you as a part of your culture and society, then you can't just try and stop releasing your fluid because you heard it was actually unconscious to do that. And you have to build up to be able to do that by practicing and conditioning. And that's where spiritual sciences have progressive layers and stages that you introduce techniques and also introduce conditioning and exercises to condition these
So
different areas. So I guess I'm putting as a thing out there for men as we talk about this. And I
you
know this has been circulating in the spiritual communities. Don't release your seed, it's unconscious. How about this? Why don't you focus the most on conditioning your pelvic floor muscles, working with your prostate, okay, and building the conditioned strength to even try to approach the concept of what it is to actually move and circulate the sexual fluid in the body. And that can be done with 3 very basic exercises on the Tao and Taoist. You can look it up in any form of Montauk Chia's work, Cultivating Sexual Energy for Men.
flexing the sphincter often.
That's one of them. Another one is you actually take the testes and you
Squeezing
compress them.
when you're
You compress
urinating.
them.
When you're urinating,
Well, actually,
you tighten it
that's
and
one.
you spurt your urine, and you also you try and yeah. We don't need to get into all that. What I was going to tell you is you were talking about all the work, the years of work, and I wanted to go back because I'm a student of the field. I grew up in a Christian household, and then I incarcerated. And then after my grandma was born on a reservation, I wanted to get into Native ceremonies. I did that for over a decade, in multiple ceremonies. Learned Native songs. Know a ton of those. I think we even sang them in ceremony a few times. And then I got into the Buddhist meditation, and because I feel like I know a lot about the Bible and Christianity and stuff like that. My whole thing with it is because a lot of Christians are like, well, that's not you're doing it the wrong way. You're not going to go to heaven, and on all this and all that. And I'm like, I'm basically in this place where I feel like nothing in life comes easy, right? So you want me to believe that all I got to do is just ask for salvation and and then next it's this miraculous thing. And for me, I don't see it that way. I see, like I said earlier, you got to do the work of the Messiah. You got to fast. You got to, try these deprivation type things. You got to change your diet. You got to learn about healing. You got to become your own doctor. You got to do the challenging, the work, the hard stuff that you don't want to do, sitting in the sauna for 30 minutes or taking a cold shower for a couple of minutes, working out every day, meditating, restricting your diet. You got to do this work. You got to become that superhero through discipline and work. Nothing in life comes easy. And that's what like a lot of religions want you to believe, that it's, oh, you just got to do this and you're saved. And I just think they're missing the whole point. It's just like this simple program to where they can gain control over your consciousness, to where they can get access to your resources. So you'll be donating in churches because they're tax-free. Why are they tax-free? Because they're culling the herd. They're controlling the herd. They're indoctrinating you guys with this watered down version of biblical theology. Like, that guy you had on, Santos Bonacci. I mean, I've been following his stuff since I was on Kauai. His astrotheology lectures. And, he said something on the Tinfoil Hat cast a few months back where he talked about the only way to God was through the Son, through his Son, and that the Son may be a portal. And there's specific things I learn in the field. I learn through nature. I learn through study. And then there's these things that people say where it's like an aha. And when he said the sun is a portal, it's like a portal shining just a small fragment of the glory of heaven down on us, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. And you learn that through meditation. Yeah, man, I think that, you know, I think basically the point that I'm trying to get at and you're trying to get at is you gotta go on this journey of the self and self-exploration. And I just don't feel like we're just gonna find it super easy. I wasn't born with a Bible in my hand, right? I came here naked and at the mercy of my parents. So I look at my life as a biblical passage. So when I read the Bible, I compare my life to what the words of that say. Does this resonate with me, this passage, right? Or is it deeper than what it just says, right? You know, we're always looking for the surface. We always want that quick answer. We always want that. We're a culture of we need it now, right? Well, you're not going to get salvation right away, dude. Sorry, guys. You got to work. No, nobody, you know, right? You're not gonna figure out the microcosmic orbit in a day. I mean, I still slip on that stuff, man.
That's where we are in the process of this. And when I say that, I mean that I am very clear that humanity has some deeper, hard lessons to go through before we are going to liberate ourselves and truly shift into another paradigm. It's not going to be a magic presto change-o wand, like boom, it's dimensional shift time. It's going to be like the process of a lotus growing out of the mud. It's going to be
Birth.
beautiful and messy and gradual and progressive in its dimensional time interface. But I do believe there is a precipice where time space will flip to space time. I don't fully know what that looks like, but you know, at some point, I don't know if you've seen the Norb theory stuff. It has to do with all of the ancient depictions of what they have invoked, why you would say the earth is flat.
Yeah.
From
Okay.
But there's been kind of walls, not really speed bumps, but what's the outer structure of this flat plane?
Yeah, the dome.
Like, how does it work? What is it? What is the firmament aspect? And so the Nord theory is actually a really well done animation that has connected a lot of pieces for me, both in 20 years of research. So again, this isn't something I watched and was like, oh,
Oh,
this
is it
is a
talking
cool
about
thing.
levels? Like levels, kind of like
Basically that we're in a series of realms that
Yes.
that have electron fields
If-
around them, and these electron fields separate the realms, and it ties into the Mayan calendar and shows the Mayan calendar actually is part of how they built this animation, depicting what the Mayan calendar showed, and that every realm has a sun and a moon that we look at as planets, but actually that the North Star Polaris and Pluto are the sun and moon polarity points of the first realm that was created, which would be Polaris. And then you have Lemuria, and then you have Atlantia, and then you have Urania, which is what we're in right now, the Aryan race, which is what they depict to be, which is what they depict to be. It's basically would be the same. It would be the lineages of the Vedas, and the Indian people would be the Aryan people of this current realm, so to speak. That was like each people coming back to the Polarians were different. Basically it starts and it shows you how it all worked, is that imagine it was a Big Bang theory, and it states in the beginning it's not perfect, but it's a starting point.
Okay.
So it basically says that from the Big Bang or whatever it was, there was all this chaotic energy that then naturally began separating into protons, neutrons, and electrons. And from that, it created a polarized dynamic field with a upper galaxy that we see that's rotating, and then a series of these realms that began expanding out with electron fields between them. And that every so often there would be a new realm that would expand out, which would cause the other ones to expand out, which would account for both the tectonic plate displacement that we have historically shown geologically over time, that the entire planet has been expanding like consciousness is expanding, and then each one of these realms has been expanding out within a time interval, and that we're within a 6,000 year interval where all of the moons and suns of all of the realms, not planets, are going to align starting December 21st of this year and go till January 1st of next year. There's a window where the electron fields will become thin between all the realms. And this has historically been depicted with the rainbow serpent prophecy, where the skies turned all rainbow colored, and you could see the wandering galaxies of other realms that you wouldn't have the vantage point of from the firmament you were in. And basically it ties in the end, which is very interesting, that these beings that took control of our world and dominated it 6,000 years ago jumped realms when the electron fields were thin, because they couldn't go higher in frequency to the golden age that those people were moving into, because they've condemned themselves from being able to go higher in frequency because they have taken life and destroyed life. And apparently that is the big gig, and that's why they've indoctrinated the masses into taking life without realizing it. Now, as Charlie would say, that would be because we've gotten indoctrinated into an industry of food, where we harvest these animals and kill them the way that they harvest adrenochrome from the
Thanklessly.
children. Basically, that they've created an industry where we are desensitized to doing that to animals and look at them as less than us, because that's how they look at us when they harvest the adrenochrome, among other things. That's been hidden for a long time, and they actually put us through this system that made us, deceived us into this replicated process of how they look at us and what they do, from the skinning to the harvesting to all of it. That's how, Santos, Charlie, they really see that clearly. Now, this is where I vary, and I just want to throw an alternative out. When human beings didn't have a recreational society that you could just be vegan in, okay, or vegetarian, and you had to eat what you could find, because the greatest cause of death throughout human history is starvation. Just so everyone knows.
Yep.
It's not disease or viruses or earth changes.
Starvation and communism.
It's human starvation.
Yeah.
So when whether we were hunter gatherers, whether we were just starting to farm, depending on how much you could grow, if you were able to catch and actually take the life of an animal, you, first of all, that fed your family for like 2 weeks or a month or something. So you better believe you were so grateful. You had a moment with that animal. You sat with it. You went through a process with it. And here's something that blew my mind. And this is jumping back to when I was a righteous vegan. I had a very humbling transformation. It was because I lived with a very powerful psychic. I won't get into who or what she is, but let's just say that she changed my entire life. It's one of the reasons I am where I am on Kauai, all of it. So many things I would have done different had this person not come into my life. I lived with her for a year, and she was the most advanced psychic being I'd ever seen, which I want to evolve and ascend to this higher state of awakening and my frontal cortex and all this. And here's someone who has 100% psychic accuracy. I watched her literally remove demons, like from people that were possessed. I saw things I never thought possible. And this person would have to have a piece of steak before she would go do energy work or battle something, like to build strength. And she was a channeler, and these beings would channel through. And this is what they said. They said that the way of this cycle of this karmic entrapment that's happened both for the children through this cycle, because when you karmically are stuck in the wheel of samsara, you have to reincarnate to some dualistic balance of what you were put through. So that means if you're put through some gnarly stuff, those cycles will just keep, they're like trapped in that cycle of torturing and torment. And that these beings have learned the karmic wheel and how to fix it, so to speak, okay? Even to get themselves to reincarnate into the same bloodline families. So the same,
probably what CERN has something to do with. CERN.
You wouldn't be surprised. Basically, that these animals are, through the industrialization of food, they have become trapped in this cycle. And our desensitization, that we don't look at them, we don't honor their life. And through intention, that consciousness and spiritual awakening is all about being conscious of something or aware of it, awareness and intention. And that back in the day, in the most purest of tribes that were connected and harmonious to nature, in nature, law of nature, that through the intention of honoring the essence and spirit of this being, that it would merge into that of a higher organism that has a more complex nervous system and a more complex spiritual path with God, whether it's to defend a village from raiders, or to open up a channel, or to defend a country as a president. When you name it, a greater purpose. And it was a great honor for both the animal and the being that got to nourish and absorb life from this being. And that our understanding, it was explained to me, was very materialistic and physical based, very materialistic, that the totality of this being that's in an animal body, that its totality was in this body that was consumed back into source, into a higher progressive ascension karmic process, and not stuck into a karmic wheel, which is what would happen if you consumed it unconsciously, meaning with no reverence or gratitude or acknowledgement of the spirit and essence and being. That acknowledging the being allowed these animals to karmically ascend to higher levels through merging with higher souls that are living and operating in higher bodies with higher purpose directed by God. There was a whole process that was lost. And now all you have is unconscious people consuming
factory farming,
and you
all
have
that
deeply,
crap.
but let's take a look with this as a hypothesis, that let's say that out of 10 people, out of 9 out of 10 people are going to consume even a piece of this animal with no reverence or awareness, so it stays stuck in that karmic cycle. But if you got even a piece, just one piece of that tormented or animal that suffered in a system that is already currently going and entrapping these souls in these cycles, and you gave acknowledgement and reverence and gratitude and thanks for this essence, this being, and acknowledged it
You'll
fully,
break the loop.
it would break the loop, and it would merge their soul and save it into yours for something more conscious. And that's literally how they broke it down to me. And it was, I've experimented where I'll have people unconsciously do something and then actually give grace and reverence, and they actually feel a difference from it. So I'm just saying, if you are going to, whether it's from your blood type or your experience, that you feel better from this, which I don't mean feel better as in like we learn, hopefully through experimentation, what foods make us feel better and what foods, oh wow, that really taxed my system. And so if you are going to do anything in this life, especially if it's in regards to being at the helm of taking life, or being a part of the taking of life with an animal to consume it for nutrition or life force, having reverence, gratitude, intention, acknowledging that being truly.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people tell me it's almost alienating. They feel weird doing it. Well, you know what? You should sit with that weird feeling, or become what does he call him? A frugarian? Like
Fruitarian.
Well, he was describing as, he said something like a frugalian. I think it was a type of people that just ate fruit. And he says everything that you need
Fruitarian.
is in fruit. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, you know, I've been sitting with the evolution of our people. And obviously I see, as we ascend to higher frequencies, I don't believe that physical nutrition will be necessary. I think that, you know, we will be operating from a level of prana and energy that, you know,
Yeah.
the reason that you want food is because you need energy. You know, but if you're plugging into an alternative power source, I mean, there will be times where if I have a solid Kundalini yoga set,
Yeah, we're not going to need food in the spirit world, dude.
No. I mean, everyone needs to start preparing for just accepting that. And I've almost felt my own deeper awareness of, wow, I feel like food is coming towards the end of its role for us to
Dude,
some degree.
you know,
I'm not
like,
saying how long, but if you're looking at the span of humanity having to nourish off of physical sustenance, and we're in the tail end of a dimensional shift into a new paradigm and a new reality. And whether you believe this or not, do your research. Even every ancient culture has lined up with this period, whether it's in a 26,000 year cycle, a 6,000 year cycle, a 3,600 year cycle, and all of the planets starting December 21st will, whether you want to consider them planets or moons and stars of other realms, will be. And by the way, Jeremy, it's interesting the way they've tracked it. All the moons are on one side and the suns are on the other from this dynamic, which is a little interesting to see. Wow, they're polarizing out and lining up. And apparently when this happens, every realm has a different apocalypse. And we have come from an iron age into a bronze. We're moving into this,
The
into the
golden
age of,
right?
well, we're starting the process. We're actually moving into, I believe, bronze, and then it comes into, but listen, just like the seasons, the majority of the season is sun, right? Is life.
Yeah.
The winter is only the small quarter. So it's the same with the astronomical calendars that are showing our seasons. A majority of them are life and our sun. There's only and so this dark period, guess when that started? 6,000 years ago, bro, when supposedly
The Dark Ages.
the realm jumpers jump to the Iron Age realm when everything is forgotten, and it's like it was a harsh apocalypse, and everything goes to this winter period before life regrows, and they start moving on an elongated calendar in these cardinal shifts towards a golden age. They come in and they like to rock it out and rule everything up until we start awakening, and they can't go past that point, so they jump to another realm that goes into, so it's like they're avoiding their accountability, and I believe that it's going to stop in this realm this time.
Check this out. So I've been thinking, like, because we all think, you and me clearly, we think outside the box. I mean, I like to follow tradition to a certain extent because I always feel like tradition is the foundation, but eventually you got to change. Like, life is all about change. If you don't move, there's not movement and progression and all that stuff. And
we're moving
innovation.
into the right. We're moving into the receptive.
Yeah, you got to innovate.
From the left.
And I keep saying, like, the elites have a plan. This whole COVID thing, the elites have a plan, right? And then we have a plan. And then God has a plan. And I don't know what the plan is. I do know that we're in 2020, the year of perfect vision. But if you're going off numerology, that's really 22, which is the master builder number, which we know the cultists, they're into numerology and all that, but so is nature, right? So these guys are trying to rebuild civilization, but they ain't going to fuck or frog with the glory of God. Sorry. They ain't frogging with us. So, and 22 is 4, but 22, the master number usually always takes over the 4, but 4 is a foundational number. It's a building block, right? It's with the way that the pyramids sit is on 4 corners, right? So we're in this period, coronavirus, corona, crown, the head, the crown, corona, Kronos, Saturn, Satan, so on and so forth. My whole thought is we are, are the elites going to take over? Are we going to get into FEMA camps? Or is this going to happen? Are they going to vaccinate us? Or no, we're going to shoot it out? Or, everybody's got these plans. But I think what's going to happen is the creator of all things is going to throw us a curveball, dude. It's just something that nobody's going to see. Are we going to get hit by comets? Or, who knows? But I was thinking the other day, and it was when I was coming out of meditation, I was like, dude, what if people like you and me and a specific group of people that have taken the time and gone through the emotional and physically ill, studies and feelings of this, we're seeing this change happen well before it's happening. What if we're this small group of people that wind up in power and with magical powers like fucking Moses, dude? Like Frog and Moses. Sorry guys. I was a pirate. Right. I was a pirate for a long time.
You're doing really well for how long we've been talking. So for you're doing amazing.
So, and I was like thinking like, damn, like what if that conscious shift is we are going to have the power of God, the magical power of God, like Moses had, and then when this shift happens, because like you said, it's going to be messy, and a lot of people aren't going to let go of the old paradigm. A lot of people aren't going to let go of what the television and the education system and the science, you know, industry told them. You know what I mean? It's like all these people, they think they're so intellectual, but it's like they ignore thousands of years of science. They ignore the great builders. They ignore the great architects, the great agriculturalists, the great surgeons, the great astrologers, and these great healers and all this stuff. And they want to make it, they want to erase it all with the last 200 years of pop science, which is, lo and behold, just seems to be destroying everything around us. You know, they want to focus on crap like climate change, but we didn't have control over the climate during the Ice Age. We didn't have control over the climate during the Great Floods, but we do have control over our environments, which nobody seems to be talking about. And if we look at science and Monsanto and, you know, the automobile industry and all this crap that we're surrounded by right now, we know there's alternative sciences out there that could eliminate all this stuff that's leaving harmful chemicals behind, or harmful byproducts, or you know, harming, you know, humans and animals with the electromagnetic frequencies this stuff is pushing out on us. You know, why isn't anybody talking about this? They're like literally ignoring it, and they're trying to say how, you know, stupid people like us with our alternative thoughts are. That's just so stupid. Oh my God, I won't even argue with a flat earther. And it's like, it took me years to like look into the whole flat earth thing. And I'm like, as an outside observer, because I'm not saying the earth is flat, I don't know. Like you said, I think we're in realms. You know, all the ancients thought we were in realms. But in the same token, it's like the flat earthers are presenting stronger and sounder arguments than all these Yale and Harvard graduates, scientists are presenting.
And if you really are looking back through trying to understand humanity through our history, up until about 300 years ago, when three publicly known, you know, Masonic or Illuminati scientists, you know, who declared it was a geocentric model.
Yeah,
up until about 300 years ago. So it seems
flat.
so silly for everyone right now. That's what's absurd to me, when I'm like, if you actually look historically, everyone throughout the ancient, super advanced civilizations that we've even mapped the stars from, had a geocentric model. Guys,
all of them.
And only up until 300 years ago, when I know who these guys are, the guys that actually, you know, even, and also donning Newtonian physics and all these elements.
Yeah, Darwin, satanic pedophile.
All controlled by, listen, when we talk about food today, whatever you eat, you should know the source. Well, it should be the same with your information. Like, look into the source. Instead of looking into the source of a website before you disregard it, once you look into the source of some of the historical founders of information that you have been told, this is how it is, this is real. That's what I'm talking to. Look into your sources.
Well, a lot of times people, they get hit by a piece of information, and then they want to, oh my God, that's so, and then they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you probably included, we've sat through lectures that either had poor sound quality, or they said things weren't in alignment with us, but there was other things that they said that we gained so much wisdom from. So we had to sit through, you know, the bad sound quality or the bad videography, or a few things that they said that challenged our paradigm or our belief systems. You know, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And when people, they're inflexible on their beliefs, or inflexible on new information, or they're just, you know, they've taken the atheism is like scientism, because most atheists are into scientism. Atheism is man worship. Man has got us into this mess. And you're going to go, oh, man's going to figure it out in science. And this, like, what do you think? Like, it's like you've turned science into a deity, dude. Like, wake up. That is your religion. You're as crazy as any Christian you hate, or any Jew or Muslim or anybody you hate with science. Your science book is your Bible, and it doesn't matter how much crazy crap. Like here you go. I'm going to break it down right now. The Big Bang. It's just so amazing, and trillions of years of nothingness. First of all, nothingness doesn't exist. Not in the third dimension, it doesn't. And if it doesn't exist in nature, it doesn't exist out in space. And I sure as shit ain't gonna believe NASA over this crap. So for trillions of years, there was nothingness. Then out of the nothingness, 4 elements just simultaneously appear, just magically appear out of nowhere. And they cause a great explosion. But according to your sciences, which is physics, according to physics, explosions destroy everything, but not this explosion. This was a magical explosion. And everything you see before you came from a rock. And we were once fish and turned into monkeys and blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, dude. If this amazing Big Bang happened, everything's based off evolution, which I don't believe in. I believe in microevolution, evolution of species and things like that. I don't believe in evolution. Not in the physical sense, not in this dimension, I don't. But it's like, where in nature are we seeing all these mini explosions creating worlds? We're not seeing that anywhere. That's where natural law comes in. So these people in science, they want to ignore the patterns in nature or warp them and twist them. And it's like, dude, the original sciences came from observations of patterns in nature. Like people like Victor Schauberger, Rudolf Steiner, Nikolai Tesla, all these people observed their natural surroundings and created inventions based off sacred geometric and numerological.
Well, why do you think they don't want you to talk about magnetism? Because at the same time, through their science, nothing really still makes sense if you look deep enough. Like, okay, if this is a ball that is spinning with all this water on it, and the majority of our planet is water.
Come on.
Have you ever taken a tennis ball and dipped it in water and spun it?
Yeah.
It shoots the water right off.
Gravity. Gravity will hold down bodies of water, but it won't hold down a fucking balloon. Give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
So but that takes, to me, experiential science, which is actually should be the science you remember that was fun when you were a kid, is when you could do experiential science and see things, whether it was adding baking soda and vinegar together and watching a chemical reaction. These were the elements that were exciting and fun about science, because they weren't about applying somebody's manipulated,
outdated theories,
which is all they really even say with science today. I can't tell you how many times you can look something up on WikiLeaks and it starts with scientists believe. So they believe. So because
most of these people are looking it up on Snopes, bro. Oh, well, Snopes says it's not real, so come on, dude. Wait.
But what is this doing, Jeremy? At the end of the day, this is forcing everybody to look into it and wake up on your own. And that's why I do want to, like, as we're coming to the end of the show, I want to give you all something inspiring that's applicable in your lives. So that's why I guess I was when I was saying that the greatest enslavement to humanity is through the chemical trauma and stress that you have accumulated that they didn't teach you needed to release. So first and foremost, there's a huge piece. You're welcome. You're welcome for that gift. Release the chemistry that's accumulating every day. I don't care how you do it. We have tons of videos on the website. You just show you just the base techniques. You can start figuring it out. How about just doing some squeezing? Just squeeze every part of your body. Just give it a squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. Like you're just giving it a squeeze. Okay.
Dude,
so do that every day. Do your arms. Do your chest. Do your legs. Okay. And you can actually take your hands and make what we call a rake tool, and then you just kind of press in and move it around all on your scalp. Open your head up. Listen. Do it before you go to sleep, because guess what? You're already laying in bed. So you're already trying to disengage your mind and relax. And
Yeah.
guess what? When you do this to yourself before you go to sleep, your body will actually engage into parasympathetic from sympathetic. Sympathetic is going to be fight or flight and survival. It's going to be not thinking about digesting your food and replenishing your pancreas and the enzymes in your pancreas and replenishing parts of your body. It's going to be in survival mode. But when you do this, or you do a breath technique, which by the way will help you to engage into a little meditation, your body's going to kick into parasympathetic. And that's where it's going to start really fixing stuff. And then when you fall asleep, you'll actually go into a deeper form of theta. And eventually, if you can work on it, start getting into the delta and the deeper brainwave states. But most of us have to get ourselves out of beta. Beta is the stressful brainwave form. It is the form that you are programmed. It's the form that our technology is programmed into. And when you're in front of televisions, it actually, the flicker rate engages you into beta, and it is harmful for your immune system. Okay. So doing this every day, just a little squeeze, give yourself a squeeze. Okay. Because look I don't want to say touch yourself, because, oh, they've totally contaminated that phrase to mean something sexual, but
y'all need to leave that you porn
how about we'll
alone.
say medicine touch yourself, okay? And do
Medicine
this
touch
every
yourself.
day. Medicine touch yourself, give yourself some movement, because it's going to refresh your system. It's going to wake your nerves up and keep everything connected. And actually, it starts turning the body into an alkaline state, which is the opposite of an acidic state. Now, if you're interested in learning more and going deeper into self-treatment and manipulating, moving your body's tissue and the trauma and stress that accumulates, you can check out www.mandalalivingfoods.com. That's our food for the nutritional content. And then matrixbodymechanics.com, www.matrixbodymechanics.com. There's lots of videos and content. There's several different ones where I actually demonstrate and show you how to do just the basics of what we call the anchor, plant, and pull method, and the various techniques and tools that you can play with. It becomes an entire project that it should be fun, of exploration. And by the way, the ultimate end result is more endorphins and more freedom in your body, and you'll wake up fresher the next day, less entrenched or programmed into the chemistry of the fear and the hyperadrenalization and the psychopathy.
Start your days off with meditation, man. Just do it for 15, 20 minutes, man. Sure. Focus, eyes closed, focus on your breathing, maybe focus on the sensations of your body, and then go into a prayer, man. You want to practice that Harry Potter magic? Go into prayer. If anything you're doing in life is not based off love, healing, and truth, and let me tell you, love, healing, and truth isn't all roses and daisies either. It's not unicorns and cotton candy. You know, a lot of times it hurts. A lot of times it's painful to find out the truth. Sometimes love is tough love, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes
love has tons of frequencies to its full spectrum.
Exactly.
And we have been conditioned falsely to think love is a certain way. This is another one of the
great
That's what I was
about to go into that right now. You know, your television teaches, you know, they put these false paradigms to these words, these things that it's not reality. Natural law. You cannot violate the laws of nature and just live consequence free. That's why we're having all these problems in society now. We've been violating natural law. So, and I'm just gonna get gangster for a second and just say it. The reason why you got all these people running around on the streets, throwing tantrums and acting like this and that is because when they were young, nobody ever punched them in the mouth. If these people got punched in the mouth a couple of times, they wouldn't be doing this stupid stuff. See, nobody ever checked them the way they needed to be checked. Oh, he's advocating violence. You know, getting punched in the mouth isn't whatever, you know, so straight up, because now you could take these psychopaths on the streets, you could punch them in the mouth 10 times and they're still not going to wake up. They're programmed to be a destructive organism on this planet. So, and if you go back 500 years, 5,000 years to the tribe, where let's say somebody was running around, you got 500 people in your tribe, you know, somebody's running around, they're disturbing the hunt, they're getting noisy, they're starting fights with the tribe, hey, the council's going to come up to you and be like, hey, man, have you talked to your brother, man? He's acting crazy. We got like other tribes out in the forest, man. They're going to come slaughter us, dude. Like, your brother's acting crazy. He's chasing off the animals. He's throwing tantrums in the field. He's bringing this vibration to the vegetables, man. We can't have that. You need to talk to your brother, or we're going to have to take other steps. So he goes and he talks to his brother. Lo and behold, his brother doesn't listen. So 2 weeks later, the council will come up to him again with a spear this time and hand the spear to his brother and say, hey, you need to deal with your brother. Talking to him isn't working, because it's either your brother or it's going to be the whole tribe. And unfortunately, we haven't dealt with people in the way that we used to. See, because I don't think even back then, people would be out of control the way they are now, because they would see war, they would see starvation, they would see violence. So they wouldn't want to engage in any of this stupid stuff. We're spoiled and we're ignorant. Right. So now natural law has been violated. So now we have all this crazy, we have this festering wound that of karma that is now, it's about to it's exploding is what it's doing, because
it's
we don't get to escape
to
it.
that point
It's
of
God's
a detox.
law.
And this is what happens when someone gets so toxic that their body just sometimes explodes out a detox
tumor.
drain.
It's tumor.
So,
it's a human tumor.
I wanna because we've gone past, and with good reason. And my producers are saying we should definitely do a part 2, bro. I definitely, obviously, like with a very very toxic, imprinted kind of, I see it as like a corrupted programming that's been deeply laid into our people. It is
psychological warfare, brother. That's what it is.
It is the glitchiness that
spiritual.
Is the grass is always greener. You don't know what you have till it's gone. Those kinds of weird glitches in humanity that we're like, wait, why did I do that? That was so self-destructive. Those, I truly believe, have been conditioned into our nervous systems and our psyches. I don't have to believe it. We could show you the science behind how we've been indoctrinated into
the soldier, princess, Disney model,
all of it.
That.
So in that regard, remember that your chemistry is really what's keeping you stuck in it. So you could do a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies or read spiritual teachings or work with a guru and have some awakenings, but you're always going to return to what you created, which is
if you go within,
fully responsible and accountable for this vessel, this building, this temple. And that means no one is going to save you. You have to go in and clean this thing out on all levels. And that is what we are all being forced to do. Otherwise, this thing is going down in that regard. And it's individually based. You can't do it for anyone else. You can only do it for yourself.
You can show people some things. You can give them some cheat codes.
Like Christ wanted you to. Like Christ was showing us through the embodiment of an example. You all have the ability to embody this level of light, illumination, and connectedness. And so I just want to say again, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. Let's do a second part.
We will.
And I want you to talk about your podcast too. I would love you to tell everybody where they can hear you more.
I'm going to just say one last quick thing.
Sure.
Like, you can work on yourself so hard. You can get to the point where you're faced with near an imminent death and still be calm in the face of that storm. I promise. I've been there several times. And I was full of fear and trauma and anguish and anger till about 10, 11 years ago when I started meditation. I had post-traumatic stress disorder, all kinds of stuff. Michael remembers.
Yep.
I'm a different vehicle now. So my podcast, Esoteric Gladiator. You can get it on Spotify, Apple, and a couple of other platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at Jeremy Lifsy Tattoo. That's JEREMY LIF as in Frank, S as in Sam, EYTATTOO. Jeremy Lifsy Tattoo. I also have Esoteric Gladiator podcast on Instagram. I don't really go on that very much. But yeah, man, check my podcast out. Like I always say, I'm a foul-mouthed pirate. I've been there, I've done it, but it's all about love, healing, and truth. and natural law. That's God's law. You cannot escape natural law. Thank you, bro, for having me on.
Truly, brother, blessings, and thank you so much. And again, we'll see you guys next week, next Monday, for another look into the great unknown as we enter into a new week of new things and new experiences and new dynamics. And we're kind of watching as the plot unfolds, while also working within to be as awake and aware as possible. And I support each of you to do that. Check out the other content. If this video has helped you in any way, you want to share with anyone, subscribe at the bottom. Please subscribe and support us to get more information and awareness out. And next week, I look forward to diving more into, at least in the second half of the broadcast, really applicable lifestyle practices to help you to feel more empowered to do just what we're saying, which is reforming, regenerating this temple. So blessings, aloha, and satnam. Thank you all for joining me. Micah Sky, Matrix Body Mechanics Live. Blessings.